To do yet another conditional proof. This time it's 8.27. It's another conditional proof without premises. Sorry. So, again, you look at what the main connective of your conclusion is. This is in the lecture notes. It tells you like kind of an order of operations where to look for things. Well, in this case, so I just cut and pasted the goal up here. Our main connective is the biconditional, or the double arrow. The double arrow requires that you set up two subproofs to introduce the conclusion or the goal that you're after. So in this case, the first subproof will have if P, then if Q, then R. And you want to end that with P and Q, then R, right? So the first subproof, you assume the antecedent of the goal, and you end it with the consequent of the goal. The second subproof, you do the reverse. So you start it with the consequent of the goal, P and Q, then R, and you end it with the antecedent of the goal, if P, then Q. If you really want to understand why you set up the subproof structure that way, look back at the truth table for biconditional introduction. The truth table for biconditional introduction shows that a biconditional sentence is only true when both the antecedent and consequent are true, or when they're both false. So given that we're operating under assumptions of truth when we're dealing with proofs, we have to be able to show that if we assume the antecedent is true, we can get the consequent, and if we assume the consequent is true, we can get the antecedent. So you're showing that both of them are in fact true, the antecedent and the consequent. The same reasoning works when you're looking at material conditional introduction. In that case, you know, the only time the sentence is false is when the antecedent is true and the consequent is false. So in those cases, that's why you have to show, assuming the antecedent is true, I can in fact get the consequent from it. That's an aside. Coming back to this, so we've just set up the subproof structure for material or biconditional intro. I'll just call it double arrow intro. So I like to write in the rule again as I go. Now, we'll start with this first one. Somehow from this, I have to figure out how to get the antecedent, or sorry, the goal. The first thing I'm going to do is recognize, hey, wait, this is another kind of material conditional sentence, right? If it's a material conditional sentence, I have to set up the subproof structure. I'll assume P and Q, and I need to end it with R. Again, always write your rules in as you go. It just makes it easier to not forget what's happening. Now I have to figure out how to get R. Okay, well, if you look at what you've got in sentence 3, you've got P and Q. That's a conjunction, and it's pretty easy to take apart. If you look at what you have in sentence 2, you've got a P and a Q and an R. Well, if you can somehow eliminate each of these parts using material conditional elimination, then we can get to that R. So the first thing to do then is to take apart the P and the Q, and this time we're using and elim. And elim from 2, and sorry, 3, and then and elim from 3. Now I have to figure out how I can get this R. So the rule for material conditional elimination says if you have if P then something here, and you've got the P there, then using the rule for arrow elim, you can get the antecedent, in this case if Q then R. Fantastic. Well, the same reasoning will work here. If I've got if Q then R, and I've got Q, I'm allowed to get R using arrow elim. If Q then R. Why didn't, oh, sorry, I put arrow intro. Arrow elim, there we go. Fantastic. So now that subproof is all done. Now I have to do the same kind of strategy on this side. Well, again, I look at what kind of sentence I have here. It's a material conditional. So I have to set up the subproof structure. I assume P, and I try and end it with if Q, then R. If I've done that, I've set up the subproof for arrow intro. Up here, same thing. I need to put a step before. I assume Q, and I try and end it with R. I've done that. I've set up the subproof structure for arrow intro. Fantastic. Now somehow I have to try and get R. Well, if you look at what you've got, here I have P and Q, then R. If somehow I could get, if P and Q, I could use arrow elim to get the R out of there. Well, here I have a P, here I have a Q. I could put those together using and intro. Fantastic. Once I have the antecedent for material conditional and the material conditional itself, I'm allowed to extract the consequent. So I have, if P and Q then R, I have P and Q, so I can use arrow elim to get my R. And once you've done that, your whole proof checks out. So that was a little bit more complicated of a proof, but again, working from the bottom up and thinking about what kinds of things you need, having the rules in front of you, it makes it pretty straightforward once you figure out, yes, I do in fact have to start from the bottom and set up these subproofs.